Canada-China relations is the focus of a meeting being held this morning, a couple hours from now. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is off on an international campaign, and a sexual assault bill that failed in the Senate could be reintroduced. For more on this and other political news, I'm joined by the Globe and Mail's Laura Stone. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
All right, this China-Canada Relations Committee was set up before the coronavirus outbreak. That has become a pressing issue, however, between our two countries. How will that be addressed in this meeting coming up at 10 o'clock?
Well, we have a meeting of this Canada-China committee, which was pushed by the opposition parties with some bureaucrats today. But the big meeting is happening on Wednesday with Dominic Barton, who is Canada's ambassador to China. Obviously, the coronavirus issue is front and center.
Getting the plane in,
logistics, the situation on the ground. Dominic Barton will be able to provide some insight into that. But there are some other issues that are certainly percolating. This is especially the detainment of the two men, Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig, in China. Mr. Barton will certainly be pushed on what Canada is doing to secure their release. There's issues of trade, of course, of Huawei 5G network. So lots of things to press the ambassador on when he meets with the committee this week.
Something hitting political news this morning is a CTV interview with Peter Mackay being abruptly cut short after a question about a tweet that his team had sent out, and I've checked, it's still on his Twitter feed. This concerned Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's yoga expenses. Have a look at what happened.
I don't have the opportunity always to vet every single thing that goes on that social media account, so we're going to do better.
And in that,
I think we're done. Okay, you just went way over.
I'm sorry.
What we agreed on.
Okay. That's quite. He said civility. I mean,
she's just doing her job. She's a journalist.
I'm doing my job, guys.
Yeah,
that's all good.
It would seem a bit of a rough rollout for Peter Mackay in the initial stages of this campaign.
A bit of a communications misstep here, and you can actually see from the clip that even Mr. Mackay looks a bit uncomfortable with his team ending an interview. It's a completely legitimate question, especially because Mr. Mackay brings up this idea of civility, and he says that his own Twitter account didn't meet that standard. So. Definitely something to watch for in his campaign. Ending an interview abruptly usually draws more attention to it than if you just let Mr. Mackay actually answer the question. I think there's also some questions as to why this tweet is still up. If Mr. Mackay says he's uncomfortable with the message of going after Prime Minister Trudeau on his yoga expenses, and he's given this in a prior interview as well. He's talked about Mr. Trudeau's yoga practice a couple of times. Then why not take that down? And so he wasn't actually able to get to that question because, as we saw, the interview was ended.
It's an interesting dynamic when you see people behind the scenes cutting off the potential leader from saying what it is that he wants to say. Andrew Scheer was criticized for the same thing.
You have to be able to take tough questions, and you have to be able to answer for yourself in front of the public. That's part of what being a leader is. So I would suspect that Mr. Mackay is probably giving his team a stern talking to, and that he is responsible for what is put out in his name, even if he's not the one tweeting. So we'll see if this ends up being a pattern or something with his campaign. But I think certainly a lot of people are looking at that and viewing it as pretty unprofessional.
Meantime, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is set to head off to Africa later this week. He is, of course, looking for support for a seat on the Security Council. Why Africa?
Well, this is a key voting bloc, 54 countries for Canada, which is pitching this message. If you'll recall back from the previous election, Canada is back. That was Justin Trudeau's big message. He blamed the Harper Conservatives for letting this slide. Now there's kind of some scrambling going on the part of the Liberal government to amass enough support for the Security Council seat. Some are saying that it's too little too late. The voting is happening in a few months, and Canada foreign aid contributions are lower than some of the other countries that also want a seat on the Security Council. There's questions about Canada's peacekeeping contribution as well. So we'll see, if this can actually make a difference for Canada.
Laura, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe here.
And you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.